My name is Josh, and welcome to Hide and Seek Archives, a podcast where we talk about things supernatural, cryptid, or unexplained. And we are live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us, Gwendolynn. Unfortunately, today I don't have my co-host, my father, joining us today. So today we have Chad as one of my co-hosts, and hopefully Blake here shortly.
Don't sound so disappointed.
No, it's fine. Anyways, well, thank you for joining us, Gwendolynn. If you'd like to go ahead and tell us a little bit about you and your group, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So my group is Uncharted. It's basically just me and one other person, a co-member of mine, Tiana, who we gather a different team for each investigation. So we're not a team of two. We're usually a team of around 5 or 6, depending on the type of investigation we're going into. But we do a lot of guest investigators. So we do focus on specialties, not expertise, specialties. So a lot of people have specialties of the type of things that they investigate. Some people will specialize in Bigfoot, some in Dogman, some in ghosts, and some in some more unheard of creatures that we investigate, such as gnomes. So it just depends on what type of investigation we're going into, depends on what type of team we build around us. Been investigating for a long time. Officially, I've been investigating for about 20 years. And I originally started when I was only about 13. And that was just, pen, paper, going in to abandoned buildings, just seeing what kind of stuff we could stir up. And then later on in life, I went from being a couch cryptid researcher to the actual field research. And that's been about 8 years now that I've been doing that. I am well versed in a lot of types of paranormal aspects. I'm not overly versed because I do research so much variety of things. It's hard to pick a topic for me. So while a Bigfoot researcher might be very well versed in Bigfoot, I might know a third of what they know or half of what they know just because I research so much. But it does come in handy when working towards a case where you don't know what type of entity you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. So I'm able to kind of pinpoint what type of entity we might be dealing with and build a team around that. So I've been doing it for a long time. Uncharted, we work mostly out of the tri-state area, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. But we have gone down to Tennessee. We've gone up to West Virginia. We go all over, really, wherever our cases pull us, but majority of them are around the tri-state area.
The tri-state, okay. And what kind of things do you research or what kind of cryptids do you look for in the tri-state?
Bigfoot and Dogman seems to be two of the bigger ones that seem to be around this area. Now, I'm just getting into the whole Dogman phenomena. I did stay away from it for quite a long time because I had a Dogman experience of my own. And it kind of steered me away from it. That was a scary one for me. So that's not something I've researched a whole lot of. I've done some book research, but I've not done any a whole lot of field research. I went on like one field investigation for Dogman, and that's only been recently. Most of it is paranormal. You get a lot of paranormal cases. When I say paranormal, I mean ghosts. Paranormal does incorporate all fields of investigation for cryptids and everything else, but a lot of people consider it paranormal investigation when you're going ghost investigating. But cryptid wise, it's usually Bigfoot or Dogman.
Okay. Well, you kind of tweaked my interest. What happened with your Dogman encounter?
It was probably one of the most calm Dogman encounters you would ever experience, honestly, versus any of them I've ever heard anyway. but I think it has to do with something with whatever creature. It seems sickly, so I don't think it had quite the impact it does on other people, but it literally came out of the shadows of my own front yard and walked across my front yard. And I just so happened to be sitting up on my van because I was stargazing. And that's something I do often. I usually sit up on top of my van. And in this case, I saw possums run across my yard. So I went up on my van. So I'm glad I was up there because when it crossed my yard, it actually stopped and changed direction and came towards me and came right up under my feet. And when it came right up under my feet, a lot of my memories from that moment is lost, but I do remember it pushing up off of its front legs because it was in a very haunch position. It stayed on all fours pretty much the whole time. And after that, I don't really remember what it looked like in the face too much. I think maybe fear response made me forget a lot of that. But then it went back down, and then it walked back to where it had changed direction to begin with. And then it went back and finished crossing my yard, crossed the road. As soon as it hit the shadow of the trees on the other side of the road, I jumped down off my van and ran to my house, and I collapsed. Like my knees gave out on me. It was like I was jello. As soon as I knew I was in safety, I was jello. And I was trying to talk about it because I had people inside and they were trying to figure out what I was saying, and I couldn't tell them. But I hadn't heard of Dogman at the time. I thought it was a werewolf, or a science experiment gone wrong is the best thing I could call it. And yeah, I just told her, I was like, this big giant dog thing, and I thought I could tell him I saw.
It looks like we lost connection there for a minute.
Yep.
Oh, it's going to load. Oh, she's back.
Oh, yeah.
Yay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
We had a semi take down a row of poles outside of my own house, so my internet was down.
So back to the Dogman. Did you get a good look at it? What did it look like?
A science experiment.
It looked like
Wrong.
exactly. It looked very much to me like a mixture between a really large wolf mixed with a hyena with maybe some dog-like features. It was very just like a bunch of creatures kind of splotted together. That's why I call it science experiment gone wrong, because whatever the creature didn't move right, it didn't walk right. Everything about it was off. It just seemed very unproportionate. It was just a strange looking creature. And it was huge too, because it was able to really get to the bottom of my feet sitting on top of this full-size van by just straightening its legs. Because originally it's walking across the yard in almost like a crawling position. But then when it gets under my feet, it straightens its legs and it can pretty much reach my feet. That's how big it was. I can't imagine how tall it would be if it stood up. It would be huge.
Do we actually have Blake now?
I'm not sure.
I see his name.
Yeah, yes, you do. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, there he is.
Blake, meet Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn, meet Blake.
Hello, Blake.
Meet you. I'm having a little technical difficulty, so if I might be on a delay and skip out or cut out, I'm sorry.
Oh, and semis run over your phone.
Yeah, I'm glad to
poles?
be here. No, my phone is off completely. I can't even access it, so I'm on a computer laptop. So.
Oh, gotcha. So Gwendolyn, you said you mentioned gnomes. What kind of investigation have you done with gnomes?
So it's a funny story. This was a completely accidental case. And it went very personal. So there was a stump outside of a haunted location, and this stump had little gnome statues placed all on top of it and around it. It was like a little gnome village. And I went out there and I was, moving the gnomes around and placing them around. I was like, man, this is kind of getting overgrown. But then I walked away and I left it. And when I was there, I kept getting little things happening to me. And I really wasn't paying too much attention to it because I'm at a haunted location. But I didn't even think about the fact that all this little stuff started happening to me after I tinkered with the little gnome village. And so I went home and I was going about my normal things. You know, we ended the investigation. Normally when I do professional investigations, I focus my time at least a few times on that location. It's not just the one and done. It's a several step process. So this was one of the processes.
We lost her again.
Darn semi trucks running over phone poles.
Make sure it's not my Wi-Fi.
No, it's not.
Okay. Yeah, I can. Okay. Yeah, my Wi-Fi's good. I've been having trouble with mine too. Oh, we lost her. We lost her and Blake. So, Chad.
Yes, sir.
Anything you want to talk about conference-wise? We're waiting for him to come back on.
Looking forward to it. With the COVID restrictions, I don't know if you want to go out with that yet. We may be changing our venue, but we're going to hold off as long as we can. If we change the venue, it's just a few miles from the current location, and but our speaker lineup, I'm really looking forward to hanging out with these people all day, and
yeah, that's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that the most.
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome back, Gwendolyn.
Sorry.
Actually, Gwendolyn is a speaker sponsor, and this is our first actual big conference, and we didn't even think about it. And Gwendolyn came to me and was like, "What are you doing? You need speaker sponsors." I says, "Okay, Gwendolyn," and she offered to help and everything, and she sponsored a speaker.
I did. I got the luxury of sponsoring. Am I allowed to say?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
Okay, cool. So I was
We
really
can
excited
trust
to get
you.
to sponsor Adam Davis. He is a good friend. So he's worked really hard. He's got a new book out. And I was like, what better way to congratulate him for his new book and to kind of help him out than to sponsor him as a speaker. So I was really glad to get to do that. So it was my pleasure, 100%.
Tell us more about speaker sponsor and all that, because we didn't even think about it, and you introduced us to it, and it's a brilliant.
Yeah, so it's a great way to get to help out some, because I know a lot of people who investigate and a lot of people who follow this type of research really like the idea of being able to help the speakers. They really like the idea of getting to say, hey, I get to help you out and make it worth your time to come here. So a lot of people individually sponsor speakers. And then you also have some groups and podcasts and things like that I want to sponsor speakers, because then they get the notoriety from their group and their podcast for sponsoring the speaker. And they also just really like to help out in general. So I thought, what better way to kind of get some money coming in to help support your speakers than to do speaker sponsors. So I was really glad that you kind of let me help out a little bit with that, because it was like, I felt like a little part of your group there for a minute. So that was kind of nice.
Well, you are. And it's almost like you just fell in my lap. That lady was so rude when you were checking in, getting a cabin, and she wouldn't let me put my flyers there. And then you spent 20 minutes talking to me and went out of your way the next day.
Oh, yeah.
To say, hey, I want to sponsor a speaker. Why aren't you doing this? And it's like, that's why I invited you to the after fact that we can't talk about live.
Oh, thank you. And I am thrilled to be a part of it. So, and you guys are doing a great thing. I think you've got a great speaker lineup, and one of the best speaker lineups I've seen in a while. So I'm really thrilled to just get to go. So I think that you guys are doing something really cool here. So I really hope, I'm sure, I'm not going to hope, I'm sure everything's going to turn out amazing. And I'm really thrilled to get to go. And I got some friends that live up in Michigan. So they're going to get to come down and they want to be a part of the event. And I maybe have pulled in a couple of speakers or speaker sponsors from there for you guys. So yeah, it's going to be fun, I feel like.
We have all our bases covered because of our governor here in the lockdown and restrictions. Right now, the motel is saying we can only have 25 people. Well, we're probably going to sell like 400 tickets. So we might be renting very large tents and doing it at an outdoor venue at a private campground to where we hope that's not what we have to do, but the show must go on, and we're not going to cancel the event. So if we have to move it a few miles down the road, outdoors, under tents, that's what we're going to do.
And for anyone who's watching right now, if you're interested in sponsoring a speaker, feel free to message me or Chad or even or Dave on Facebook. We'll eventually have something put together where you can sponsor through the website. That's something we got to put together still. But if you're interested, feel free to message us.
Yeah, it takes Josh a couple days to put it all together. I mean, this has just been brought up to him. It doesn't happen overnight, but he'll get it done.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So what are you guys planning for your lineup? I mean, how are you, it's a 1-day event, correct?
Yes.
9 a.m. to 11 p.m.
To 11 p.m. Yeah. So what are you guys planning for your lineup? Do you have any kind of schedule as like speakers and then like lunch and then speakers?
Yeah, we'll break stuff off. We have our Michigan speaker list, which we'll put in between our main speakers is what the plan is. And, some people may only speak for a half hour. We only want our main speakers to go for about an hour. We want them to have time with the people that bought a ticket to come see them. We want them to have the one-on-one time. Most of the speakers are going to have a vending table for themselves for their books or whatever. And, it's more the one-on-one, actually to me more than the actual conference.
Yeah. Yeah, because hearing them speak is it's great. It's fun because then you get to hear about their work and what they get to do out in the field. And it's more personal of experience. But then to get a lot of one-on-one time, I think, is a really good opportunity for a lot of people that they don't usually get, because a lot of times the speakers are usually off doing different things, based on what the conference wants them to do. But you guys are giving the ticket buyers the opportunity to get to have some time with the speakers. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, the minute Cliff Brackman's done talking, I'm like, get out of here, Cliff, man. Go sit at that table over there. He can spend the rest of the day there, get his free lunch, and talk to people.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, you definitely want to take care of your speakers. I love it.
Absolutely. And we'll also have a few other things going on, and things might change as we change locations. But for the most part, of course, we'll have the speakers and raffles, and I think we're going to have Ernie's going to be doing a thing where he shows all his cast, and
Ernie has one of the largest.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
One of the largest track collections in the world. It's like up there to Meldrum and Barackman level. I think he's got like 60 casts, 60 some. They're replicas.
Wow.
We also have ones we've cast ourselves that'll be on display. So each cast is going to have its story by it, and we're going to set up an area where you can go look at all of the casts that have been casted in the past from popular people.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. That's really cool.
Are you back, Blake?
Yes, I am now.
Well,
he's like,
Josh and I are getting all talked out. Do you got any questions? We were talking about the conference. I don't know if you were listening or not.
Well, Gwendolyn never got to her gnome experience.
Oh yeah, she got kicked off in the middle of her gnome
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
I did, yeah.
Oh, I'm distracted too. Okay, back to the
What about
gnomes.
dog? Encountered any dog man? Have you got any reports in the area or anything?
Of dogmen in this area? Not so much. Unfortunately, there's not a very good way to report dogmen.
Uh,
Did we lose her?
yep. You
Yeah,
must.
she'll
You must be bad luck, Blake.
Yeah, you know what? My phone. Yeah, it really is odd how it has absolutely no internet connection, even outside.
Oh,
As
she's
soon
back.
as the party's about to
So
start.
frustrating.
We were talking about those tiny little things you were moving around on the stump.
Oh yeah, the little okay. So if you want me to get back to those stories, so
Absolutely.
after I left the location, I went home, went about my normal business. Now, many times when I leave a location, I don't do the whole normal, you stay here, you're not allowed to come with me. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that being is because a lot of times when you leave a location, if something does follow you, it has this rubber band effect. It only can stick with you for so long before it gets pulled back to where it came from. They don't tend to stick around. So a lot of times I just like, well, if something follows me home, we'll see what happens, because I don't fear it. I'm not afraid. And so when I get home, I start seeing this little shadow dude running around my house. And I'm like, and I watched it zoom out of my bedroom the first time, zoomed out of my bedroom down the hallway. And I'm like, what in the world is that? So I turn around, look at my friend. I'm like, I just saw something little and black run down the hallway out of my room. So I kept seeing this little black thing running around, running around. Well, then I started getting these little tugs on my pants. And it was about, like 6-year-old kid height. And it would tug at my pants, run away. Or it would throw something at me and run away. I even had like glass being thrown at me that nobody knows where it came from. It was very thick glass, like you would find on something that was really well made, like a car window. But we've never had any glass in the house that was that thick, that busted. So it was very strange where it even came from. So it was very much picking on me and me alone. And I do have, kids in the house, and I did have my friend that was staying there for a short period of time. So everybody else in the house, I was the only one I was messing with. And I was racking my brain. I was like, it's like a little gnome dude. That's what kept popping in my head, like a little gnome. So then it became an investigation of my own house. So, try to figure out what's going on in my own house. And well, at least this was the most thrilling gnome experience. Come to find out, it dawned on me. I said, oh, after I messed with the little gnome village at that other place, that's when all this stuff started happening to me at home. And here I am thinking it's a gnome. So that has to be what it is. So the next time I went back to do my second round of investigation of that place, I decided that I was going to fix up the gnome village and apologize for messing with it to begin with. So that's what I did. I added some more sand, set up all the little gnome creatures, pulled the weeds around it, just made the stump look really nice again. And I promise you, it never came back. It never bothered me again. So the only thing I can attribute to is fairy folklore, where you do something and trade for something you want. Well, I fixed its house up and trade for it to stay. So that was kind of a cool story. But I'll tell you, that was one of the weirder experiences of something following me home that I've ever had.
So is it normal for things to attach and follow you? This is frequent in your investigations?
It's actually about more like 33% of the time something will follow me home. It's not as often as most might think, because of how often I do this. I do an investigation just about a ghost investigation just about every week. So for something to only follow me home 33% of the time, it's very uncommon, honestly. But what it does, like I said, it has that rubber band effect where it can't really go too far for too long before it gets pulled back to where it came from.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So,
But
what about evil entities? Do you ever run across those? And can't their attachment last longer? Don't they have a little longer rubber band if they
honestly,
want, in your opinion?
yeah. Well, there's rules that apply pretty much for most things. I've only ever come across something that I felt was truly demonic, like maybe 3 times. It's a lot more rare than a lot of people think it is. A lot of the demonic entities that people say are demonic are really just misunderstood, usually either elemental or tulpa like entities. And elemental are very much like earth element, fire element, wind element, water element. They're very much based in that type of realm. Or tulpas and egregores are very much more based on, they're created through collective mind consciousness, which is basically where people create these by the belief that they exist.
Very,
It's a
very
very confusing
interesting.
theory.
Now,
Yeah.
seeing we're on this ghost thing, and I'm very familiar. Do you want to talk about? I mean, a lot of people think something's a ghost, and a lot of times it's just a repeating energy. You're familiar with repeating energies,
Oh yes.
which isn't actually the
Yes,
spirit
those.
being here?
Yeah, you're right. It's not actually any type of intelligent entity that can ever interact with you. This type of entity will never, ever, ever look at you, never speak with you, never directly make any kind of contact with you. And usually it's replay. I might be losing connection, I'm not sure. It's a replay of the past, what happened in the past. And some people even theorize that it could be a imprint from the future. Now, the imprint of the past makes a lot more sense as far as when you're discussing the stone tape theory. Stone tape theory is, well, you know that they make record needles out of quartz because they have the ability to pick up information, or they use quartz within the old CB radios because they have the ability to kind of store and repeat information. Quartz is a natural recording device, completely natural. So the theory is that quartz and limestone can hold information and every now and again spit it back out and replay it. So that's where you get these residual type of energies where you see a ghost walking through your house, but it always walks through the same time, or not even the same time, but it always walks through the same direction. It'll walk through walls. It'll just drop through the floor. And the reason for that being is because it's replaying in the atmosphere it was in when it was alive. And when I say when it was alive, when there was a living person making those rounds.
Now,
This entity is.
isn't there a lot of involvement with repeating energies when somebody experiences something very tragic and they release that energy and then that repeats itself? I mean,
Yeah, because our bodies do have electrical pulses, and when you're experiencing something traumatic, the theory is that those electrical pulses become more intense. So when you experience something traumatic in the process of dying, and you don't even have to die in on honesty, you could live through the experience, but because you were experiencing that trauma in that moment, you basically put out a lot of electro forces that get pulled into those quartz or those limestone. So you could be alive and still have an entity of you walking around that's residual.
that's cool because I never thought about that. I thought it was always only dead, it would be dead repeating energy. But yeah, if you leave that energy out there, it's there forever, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Very fast.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool theory, and I love it. And it seems to have a lot of basis of truth to it because of all the experiences that's been reported. So that's a theory that I am pretty solid on. I usually kind of teeter with theories, and I'm like, oh, I like this today, I like this today. But that one is really solid, and that's a type of entity. It's not all of them.
Right. So, how dangerous is it getting into this subject for newbies and uh, people who are not aware?
I guess it depends on how far you dive, how fast. As long as you give yourself time to work yourself up to more dangerous situations where you're feeling more comfortable and more versed in what you're going after, I think it's okay. But if you're jumping right into Bigfoot research and you're going out there with you and one other person and you're not carrying anything with you to protect yourself against not just Bigfoot, but other creatures as well, that's very dangerous. So I think the education first is the most important thing before you ever step foot out into the field.
Yeah.
What do you think is the scariest thing that you've ever encountered or haven't encountered?
Dogman.
You know, it's a toss up because everything there's a few things that were scary for different reasons, and they all involve different entities. There was my Dogman experience, and that was scary because I was alone. I thought to myself, if this thing were to grab me, nobody would even know what happened to me. My kids would be momless. Then I had a Bigfoot experience where that was really concerning because, went from docile to aggressive and charging in a second flat. And I'll be honest with you, that was one of the few times where I was with a team that I really thought we were in some serious danger. And that was scary. And then there was also a paranormal experience, a ghost experience, where it was a truly demonic case. And it went through me and I was out cold. And I remember hearing somebody screaming, and finally I realized it was me, and I woke up and I was like totally out of it. And I had missing time for months afterwards.
Okay, you did it, Gwendolyn. We got to go back to the Bigfoot with your group. We've got to know. Take us through what happened.
Yeah, the Dogman for sure.
Well, it was featured on TV, but they didn't get it quite right. So yeah, they never really get it quite right. We originally took a group of basically college students out into a Bigfoot location that was known to have died down. There was really no Bigfoot interaction going on in this location for quite a while. But we were still seeing some old signs of old broken down trees that had been there for a while because the decay had set in on the break. So you could tell it was older. And so we was just going to show them some of these old breaks, some of these old holes that we noticed, some of these old bedding areas, things like that. Well, it was still a live investigation area because once the college group left and we were done with the tutorial, we decided we were going to keep hiking. We ended up staying out a little longer than we expected. We weren't intending to be out there at night, but on the way down, the sun set really fast. So we were basically maneuvering our way through the dark. We were sliding down these damp rocks because the dew had started to settle, so the rocks got damp, and we decided we were going to go down the steeper side of the cliff rather than the trail side because it was faster, and we was trying to get out of there because it was dark. And as we were coming down, we were sliding down, and we could hear something sliding down above us. So we're like, something's trailing us. Something is following us. So we get down, we start recollaborating, and we're talking, and we're figuring out a game plan because we're back on the trail. And we decide we're still on too steep of an edge. We only have the front and back of us open. We had neither side open. One was a steep cliff down, the other was a steep cliff up. So we want to get down further where we had the ability to be able to maneuver any direction to be able to get out of there if we were in danger. So we got down further, more flat land, more to the trail side of the mountain. And that's when everything crazy started. We started out, decided we were going to go ahead and investigate. We weren't really super prepared. So we did a live YouTube video thinking anything we caught, we would get on YouTube Live. And we started whooping, and we finally got a whoop back. And then we did a tree knock. We immediately got a tree knock back. Once they started communicating with us, it was like game on. They were ready to play. So we were just getting all kinds of vocalizations and knocks, and we started getting little rocks thrown at us. And in the woods, you can hear the difference between an acorn falling and a rock hitting a tree because it's thrown at you. You can hear a major difference. And so we had a lot of great activity. So then I decided I was going to do a circle on the ground, and it's basically like a sigil of sorts, and it's supposed to draw these things in. So I'm doing my directional lines, and it seems like wherever I put a directional line is where we start hearing the footsteps. So I'm like, okay, this is really happening. Something is really intelligently surrounding us. We had, from what I understand, it was like 6 or 7. We could count the footsteps in different areas. And they were basically ever around us, behind us, on each side of us, but not in front of us. The front of us was the way out. So basically, we figured out they were basically corralling us out. And so the guy that had come with us, another guy that had come with us, he decided to stick around. He wasn't well versed in Bigfoot, but he loves Bigfoot. He was scared. He started sweating. He started turning white. He has heart conditions. We were concerned that maybe he was going to just fall out on us. So we're like, we need to get him out of here. And one of the guys that was with me, Michael, he says, okay, it's time to go. And I'm like, but, this is what we're here for. We're getting stuff. I didn't want to leave. So I'm like, okay, maybe he can go down and we can stay up. Like, I'm trying to figure out, maybe you guys can leave me here. And then you can, trying to figure out ways so we can stay in that area because we're getting good stuff. He's like, no, we got to go. And just a friendly gesture, he kind of grabbed my arm and went to like pull me out of my circle because I was in the center of the circle. And as soon as he did that, we got charged. The moment he touched my arm, it was like boom, 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 boom. It's like 5 or 6 really heavy ground shaking steps. Now, the flashlights we had, they weren't very good. We tried to go dark. It was a very dark night. We were in the woods, so even the moonlight wasn't shown through. Either way, we were screwed. We couldn't see nothing. But we were definitely getting charged. We could feel the ground shaking. We could hear this thing, and you could hear it. And it was going, whoof, whoof. As it was charging, like, doo, 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 and then it stopped right behind me. And I'm kind of ducked down. I'm looking that direction. I'm like, okay, maybe we should go. So we started backing out of there slowly, and we could hear them moving with us on each side of us and behind us. Whatever the big one was, it stayed back. It stayed back, and it let everything else kind of push us out. And once we got where thought we were far enough out, we were right at the edge line of the trees there. We thought we were safe. We started, talking. And then all of a sudden, just this big, huge boom. And it was this outbuilding that we thought was a building, but turns out when we went back later and checked it out, it was actually like a pavilion. It had hit the metal roof of the pavilion, but it sounded like a huge just gunshot. And immediately my heart skips a beat. And then Michael says, I don't think we're far enough out. And I'm like, yeah, probably right. So as we're getting ready to leave again, it does it again. Another big boom. So we get down and we get to this spot where there's like a break between the
Guess we lost her again.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating stuff, though.
Mm-hmm. She's really cool.
Oh, she's coming back.
There I am.
Welcome back. Okay, wait.
Anyways,
boom.
okay.
And you guys weren't far enough away, and
yeah, thank you, because I wasn't sure where I lost connection. So, anyways, it hit twice. The second time wasn't quite as loud. The first one must have been a bigger rock. The second one wasn't quite as big, but it still was a huge bang because it was on a metal roof. And then, so we decided we were going to get further out. And it goes from a trail to like an open field, and then it goes to a sidewalk, and then we hit the sidewalk. And as soon as we cross from the sidewalk terrain into the parking lot terrain, it was like you just walked out of a barrier. And then we start hearing this really long whoop. There's like this ravine over to my right. It would be the west side of the mountain. So there's this little ravine that goes off to the right. And we heard something start whooping down there, just a real long extended whoop. And I'm thinking, this is really happening. This is really happening. We're actually getting this stuff. And then another one up on the next ridge up. And then when that one got done, another one on the next ridge up. And then it started all over again. And then all of a sudden, it was like just so much chaos of all these different whoops. It was like they were drowning each other out. They were all going over top of each other. And it was deafening. It was just I've never heard that many whoops at one time in one space. And I'm thinking, we're catching this all. And then as soon as that started, Kenny started kind of hyperventilating. So we were like, we got to go. So I go to process the YouTube video. Lo and behold, there's an error. I didn't find out until later that people were trying to tell us that our video was starting to cut out when the activity started. So when that happened, it corrupted our YouTube live completely, and it cut our 57-minute video down to 9 minutes. That was all it would process. That was it. And within that 9 minutes, the only thing we caught was just one low growl. That was it. Everything else is gone. So because we weren't prepared, we didn't have any of our recording devices, no parabolic dish, nothing to use, junky flashlights, 2 broken headlamps. Like, it was just the most ridiculous thing ever. And it was like, you're in a Bigfoot area at night, you're getting activity, even though you don't have equipment, you don't want to leave. So you try to do with what you got, and what we got failed. It failed us. So it was so upsetting.
Kind of makes you wonder, if you had all that equipment, would you have had that activity? Because
I almost wonder too.
How do you think they corrupted the file? What do you think's the theory behind that? What's your theory?
Well, honestly, I've built a couple theories because I like for every type of person to have a theory. My flesh and blood theory is that there are a lot of animals out there that have capabilities that we are only just recently becoming aware of. Tigers have infrasound. A lot of people thought only dolphins had infrasound. Tigers do too. Cows, they just found out in 2008 in a research study in Germany that they really do graze facing north. They artificially changed the north-south axis using machinery. And when they did that, the cows stopped eating, turned north again, and started eating again. This is something that's been discussed and talked with farmers for years, always called BS by scientists, but then it's found out to be a realistic thing. So what's to say that Bigfoot doesn't have the capability to put out some sort of wave of energy that disrupts electronic equipment and then tinkers with our brains and makes us think that we're experiencing something we're not, like screen memories. But then there's also the more woo theory that you could go with, where Bigfoot is interdimensional and has the capability to corrupt our files whenever he wants. So
she is very interesting.
Yeah. What a quite experience, and that does happen. We've experienced it. I know I have a few different times, several locations, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly what's going on and how it's happening. But when it definitely
Yeah.
shouldn't, not normal type of corruption and stuff. Yeah, very, very interesting. So it just
Yeah,
happened.
the sigil was interesting too.
Mm-hmm.
How that seemed to draw them in.
Yeah, also how they reacted to the guy grabbing her and stuff. Maybe they felt some type of tension or even just a little bit of a disagreement, even though it's not heated. The action of grabbing it, stuff that how that triggered a response was interesting too.
And we're gonna get to have this young lady out in the field with us for like almost a week. This is gonna be cool. You back, Gwendolyn?
I'm back. Sorry.
It's all right.
My theories, EMF, electromagnetic frequency. Is it proven? No. Can it be proven? Not yet. But I go with that for the electronic stuff, for when the weird things happen, because the symptoms that you get when they so-called zap are the same symptoms of EMF poisoning. So I like to lean towards that theory. It's only a theory, but it would make sense how it can mess with electronics too. Also, and I'm very firm that power lines and ley lines in the earth are very important to Bigfoot. Can I prove it? No, but if you look at the sightings and stuff, put maps down, and you'll find a lot of ley line areas and power line areas in high sighting areas.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make, because I don't think a lot of people pay attention as much as they should to not just the creature that they're investigating, but also the area that they're investigating it in. And I think that if they did that, they might find a lot of those connections. Also, magnetic waves, which is different because you got geomagnetic waves also that play a factor. So while you might not have power lines in one area, you might find you have a higher geomagnetic wave in that area, which is a natural type of magnetism. So there's a lot of different things to look at when you go into research a Bigfoot, and it's not just the Bigfoot or the it's the area too. You need to pay attention to the area you're in and what it has to offer.
Now back to quartz on the same topic. Quartz is also electrical, and when water and things run over quartz, it creates an electricity. So these geo areas are also high quartz areas a lot of times also, aren't they?
Yes and no. I think you do tend to find a lot more quartz in these areas, and maybe it has to do with the way the mineral is created to start with. But I think that geomagnetic waves change.
I think we lost her again.
Darn semi trucks.
Yeah, it's very fascinating how everything is, it's all happening at the same time, around Bigfoot. Is it Bigfoot? Is it the areas? Is it something else, different creatures, entities, and all that? There's a lot of unknown mysteries surrounding the creature and other things.
Mm-hmm. Even how it all relates to ghosts, it's like really, it's bizarre. It all kind of ties in one way or another. You can make connections. It's all theory, but you can make connections. Welcome back, Gwendolyn.
That is true. Thank you. I do agree with what you're saying, though. I've been preaching that a long time, so I'm right there with you on that.
Well, there's a reason we met. Obviously, it was destined for me to run into you and hand you that flyer.
Yeah, I don't disagree because I don't know what it was. I just felt this pull that I as soon as you handed me that flyer, I looked at you. I was like, I think I need to be getting involved with him as far as the event and stuff. It was just this immediate, like, I want to help. So that was pretty nice. So yeah, I definitely feel like it was kind of meant to be for sure.
What other experiences have you had with Sasquatch?
That was my that was my biggest one. That was the one that really hit home for me. Prior to that, I had a lot of wood knocks, a lot of little stuff getting thrown at me, a lot of footsteps out in the woods, some howls every now and again that were a little confusing. Nothing ever too solid to make me fully believe in Bigfoot. And I'll be honest with you, like I love the research. I would go out there and do it just because I like to be out there in the wilderness. But I wasn't sure if I was quite a believer up until I had that experience. And the experience is only about 2 years old. So I experienced for a while before I ever had my first experience.
The sigil you drew, what was it? Tell me a little bit about that. I've never heard of that.
So it was something that my grandma used to draw on the back of my hand quite often. And she was supposed to have been Native American, but I found out recently that I have no Native American whatsoever in me, but she followed Native American heritage. And she used to say that it would draw in life and luck. So she would always draw on the back of my hand and she would tell me it meant life. It would draw in life and luck. So I decided just to start incorporating stuff like that into my research and see what happens. I mean, that's what we do. We research, we try different and new things. So that's what I started trying to do. And I couldn't believe that it actually seemed to work. So it was just one of those things where it's just like hit or miss. Let's see what happens. And it just seemed to work because the reason I attribute it to the sigil is because wherever I would draw a line into my circle is where we would start hearing footsteps next. It's very strange. So I was like, maybe it really is drawing these things in. I've tried it since then. I think I've just tried it with the wrong group because it hasn't really worked out. We'd start to get stuff and then all of a sudden somebody would act stupid and it would run. So yeah, I think you have to have the right group of people to be able to really get these things close to you.
I think it was real interesting how you drew out the sigil and everything seemed to be peaceful and playful, but as soon as that connection was broken, everything just went south. I find
It
that very
did.
yeah.
Yeah, it was very weird. And I was like, immediately, the whole atmosphere around us just changed. It was like, get out. Versus before, it was like, oh, what's this? Who are you? What are you doing? And it was very curious and very playful almost. And then it was like, as soon as like he stepped into my circle and grabbed my arm, it was like everything just 180. And it just became very aggressive feeling. And that's when I became nervous. I wasn't nervous until then.
It could have been the action. Maybe they thought it was an aggressive act in their eyes towards you.
Yeah.
And, they did not like that. I mean, it's hard to say what they view as acceptable.
That's
and
true.
what's not.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. So that's one of the first conclusions that I drew from it, was the fact that he made contact with me and they saw it as threatening to me, maybe, because granted, I was the one trying to interact with them the most. Everybody else was just kind of standing back recording. Well, everybody else being the two other guys would just kind of stand there recording. And I think that it was totally intentional. I was cool with it because it seems like the feminine aura tends to draw them in more. It makes them more curious, and we're less threatening than men. So I think that when we get interactions, it's much more curious type of interaction versus a lot of guys tend to get a more aggressive interaction.
Are we going to try this on our little camp out?
I'm so totally game. If you guys are game, I'm willing to try it. And I also have some pheromone enhancing booster that I put on that night. And I don't know if that seemed to help. I can do that as well. I'm more than happy to be bait. I just want experience.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, we're hoping to have a quite memorable. So, glad to have you.
It's like you can't mock it until you try it.
No,
that's the whole point of the research, like she said.
Mm-hmm. And if it works, it's not stupid. If it works, then it.
If you don't die.
Well, documentation is very important. Always have to document. Really
Sorry.
I'm willing to spend a half a night trying this. Never tried it before, but we'll have Gwendolyn draw her circle in her line and wear her pheromone.
There you go. We'll draw something in, I'm sure.
I know where we'll be at. I think there's wolves, bear, elk.
There's everything.
It's gonna be a fun little experiment.
Yeah. What happened in your Dogman experience? Let's get into that a bit.
Who's mine?
Yeah, yours. Blake, you weren't here when she talked about it, but yeah, you can go ahead and tell us again.
The dog man. The dog that wanted to lick your toes.
Yeah, Blake didn't hear.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what its intention was, but I don't really think it was there to like kiss on my feet. I don't think it was there to be nice, to be honest with you. I don't think anything has ever given me a feeling of, if it were stronger, it would kill me than this thing did. And it was very nerve-wracking, and it walked its way across my whole yard, changed direction, walked right up to my feet, lifted up. I think it stiffed my feet. That's the only thing I can think of. Hopefully they stink, because for some reason it went away. And it just hunkered down again and walked all the way across the yard, and I took off in the house. As soon as I hit the house, I was rubber. I hit the floor. And good luck explaining that to the people that was in my...
Her description was it looked like a science project that went wrong. Science experiment that went wrong. It didn't look at...
Yeah, that's the best way.
Anything.
So when you said you passed out, you think it was like an adrenaline dump kind of thing, or?
I didn't really pass out. It was more like my legs just gave out on me. My arms just gave out on me. I couldn't even really talk or make cohesive sentences. I was trying to tell him like it was a big dog, but it was like not really coming out right. I do think it was an adrenaline dump. I think I had expended all I could to try to hold myself together in the moment. And then once I ran in the house, it was just it. I was just done.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But before we get off here, I do want to mention something that I forgot to mention earlier. I got so caught up in the conversation, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
So, so I am also a member of the NADP. It's the North American Dogman Project, and this is Region 3 that I'm a part of. Now they do have a new international group, the NADP International sector, but I'm a part of Region 3, and they have a really awesome investigation coming up. I think probably somewhere in July. It's no set in stone date right now, but it's going to be a one of a kind of investigation. From what I hear, it's going to be filmed. It's going to be a very military style investigation. It's not going to be any like goofy laughing, playing around. It's all business. Because we're going out there to an area where there was a dogman attack that actually killed some individuals, and I'm sure that a lot of people know where that is. But it's going to be a one-of-a-kind investigation, and I'm so grateful to be a part of. And the NADP is one heck of a group. They're amazing. What they do is they try to only provide dogman information, so no Bigfoot or anything like that, because they want people who come in there to research from their page to get their research specialty cryptid, which is dogman. So they don't do any kind of Bigfoot posts or anything like that, specifically dogman. And they do a really good job at it. So if you guys wanted to come check it out, you can find it on Facebook, NADP Region 3,
Yeah,
or the North American Dogman Project.
The founder's name.
Yeah, Jody. And then there's also Nick at Valencia. And then there's Vincent and Karen. And there's just a lot of really great people. But Jody is, I think, the founder, and Nick Valencia is right behind him as the co-founder. I think he's co-founder. If not, he's right behind him.
You also should give your group another shout out and where people can reach you for any type of cryptid. Gwendolyn's there for you, and we can find you
any type of cryptid. Uncharted Studies on Facebook. I recently changed the name. It used to be Uncharted Paracryptid Studies. I went to Uncharted Studies. A little bit more vast description of it. And we research anything from dogman, Bigfoot, other cryptids, to ghosts, fairies, gnomes, pretty much anything weird. If UFOs, we haven't done as many of those. They're hard to investigate, but we do those as well. And I took a hiatus, so there's not a whole lot of recent posts. I had to take a break every now and then. You kind of back down, give yourself a break, go back into it. Took a little short hiatus for about 3 or 4 months. So we're getting back into it. So we got a lot of really cool stuff coming up, obviously, with the NADP, but we also have some really cool investigations come up. So I don't post a whole lot of evidence on there. More or less, I just post tips and tricks and things and how to investigate and stuff like that. But when I do get something that's really super compelling, I will post it. Some of the stuff I can't post for privacy reasons because I do a lot of residential cases. So I keep that pretty private.
What do you think, Blake? Is she a candidate to bring to Seven Gables Road or what?
Yeah.
I will have you know that my nickname is Seven.
It's the most haunted road purportedly in Michigan, Seven Gables Road, and there's a long history of not great things.
Weird way. So quite a unique spot.
Wow, I'd love to check it out.
A lot of dark stories.
We've got friends that are ghost hunters. We met them. We're out there Bigfooting and meeting ghost hunters, and we've become great friends and gone on investigations together. Yeah. We got to
That's really cool. Yeah. I love to go to the darker investigations. If it's supposed to be like demon or if it's like road and stuff, I always seem to navigate towards that dark stuff because a lot of times I find out it's not what people think.
Blake knows the story better than any of us. Do you want to tell her the story of Seven Gables Road, Blake? You got him?
Yes.
A second?
Yeah, it's a legend and stuff. This is a kind of a Michigan urban myth type of thing. But basically, in the 1800s or so, there was a house built on the road, Seven Gables, and either a witch used to live there, basically she might have lived there, cursed the land. Uh, the house burnt down. Another family moved in, and the father murdered everyone and hung them on the hanging tree, is what people used to call it, and it would outstretch this trail. And so when you would go at the hanging tree, take pictures, you would have distortion, you would have stuff that happened to the family and stuff. And basically, it's always been kind of haunted, and people see stuff, people have interactions, and possibly Bigfoot there, ghost entities, UFOs, and a lot of stuff coming.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
very, very.
There's also an area there was other houses out there. Who knows? The land is supposed to be cursed by the witch. There's also an area that is infested with rattlesnakes, which is very rare in Michigan. And we even met a guy
wow.
there that warned me because I had my dog, Squatch Dog. Come here, Squatch Dog. Introduce
Yeah.
yourself. Get over here. Come here. Now. Get up. Come on. Come here.
Oh my
So he
goodness.
warned me. Come here. The guy warned me because his dog died. His dog, he said, there's this area.
Oh,
Keep your dog out of it. And that area is by some of the houses that are no longer there. So that's part of it. Yeah,
And that's unusual
that's interesting.
for snakes because Michigan is known supposedly not to have any venomous snakes.
They're in very rare
Wow.
pockets. Just
Yeah.
high contact. And we also had activity when we were there at night and got followed and had some jumps and stuff.
Wow.
Is it connected with Sasquatch? Is it the land? Is it curse? Paranormal stuff? I mean, it's all in the area that has everything, so it's very interesting. Just more questions.
Yeah. That's the type of area I would love to investigate.
Well, we definitely can set up something anytime you want. So,
Yeah, for sure.
but,
yeah, you're only in Ohio. You're only one state away.
Yeah, it's like not far at all. I've traveled much further, much further.
Well, crickets. Come on, what's going on, guys? What's going on here? I can't.
Oh, I'm
answer
sorry.
that
I thought there was
question. Not
delay.
you, my co-host and host. I can't ask all the questions. Come on, guys.
go ahead, Josh.
Well, I was going to say, did you have any questions for us, Gwendolyn?
The main one was just the structure of the conference, and I'm really excited to hear about this Seven Gables Road because my nickname is also Seven, which was intended to originally be an insult because I delve into the more darker side of investigating because I want to seek out why these areas are so dark. So because of that, people started claiming that I was Seven, which was intended to be an insult. Seven is an ITC demon, supposedly, kind of like Zozo was for the Ouija board. Seven was supposed to be for the ITC devices. However, it's not. Seven's never been considered a negative thing. So I took it and ran with it. I was like, So it stuck, and people call me Seven sometimes.
Cool.
Next time I text you, I'm gonna be, "Hey, Seven, how you doing?"
Oh,
I don't mind it at all. Yeah, there's a lot of the insults that we got thrown around that time because of my darker side of research. It was mostly just coming from one person's mouth. The bigger you get, the more hate you get, that type of thing. So a lot of it was intended to be very insulting, like succubus and Lilith and Seven. I'm like, I love that, because I'm like, Lilith is like the iconic, person to look to for some types of magicry. And then, you get also, succubus. I don't know how that's supposed to be an insult. I'm human. I'm not a succubus. But then there was Seven. So, it's intended to be insults. I took him and ran with him, and I made him a little something better.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Bigfoot community, even paranormal community, it's all divide and conquer and selflessness. But if everyone worked together and actually did research together, we would solve a lot more mysteries instead of asking more, trying to find the answer to all these questions.
Exactly. Collaboration. Yes, collaboration is huge in this field. And when you're not collaborating, you're doing your whole group a disservice because you're going to be stuck in one mindset and one thought process, and you're not going to expand. So,
And like you say, expand your mind. I'm like with Bigfoot. I'm strictly, as my belief to this day, it is a flesh and blood creature. But I don't ridicule the people that claim these other things. It's just not what I witnessed. And if your mind is not open up enough to accept all the possibilities, you need to look at all the possibilities before you make a conclusion to what you believe, because there are many possibilities out there of what these creatures and what these things could be, why they're there, and open-mindedness is really important in this field.
mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
So, what's your theory on like hollow earth type of stuff, or karst systems, or creatures living underground in these ancient cave systems?
Are you serious? We couldn't make it a whole episode without you saying karst?
Well, it's
okay.
type of stuff. So yeah,
I'll be honest with you. I love that idea. I love that theory. I think it's a really solid theory, or hollow theory, however you want to call it. I love the idea of the hollow earth theory because there are, Go ahead.
That theory is also
I thought somebody
biblical.
said something. I'm sorry.
The hollow earth theory is also biblical.
The hollow earth.
That's always when we get good.
Yeah, you had to get that karst in.
Well, it's a new
Love
science.
You, brother. Love you, brother.
In the decades to come, it'll be the new future Earth exploration. So, it'll be very unique to see what kind of species we find, or whatever's down there. That's all over the world too. All these features in the so.
Oh, I think that was a record.
Welcome back, Gwendolyn.
Thanks.
So
I'm sorry. I feel really bad.
We were talking about the hollow earth theory before you were frozen up, and how you love the theory. And I brought the fact that there's even theories like that in the Bible about the end of times, that there's going to be beasts that come from inside the earth. It's written, whether you believe in the Bible or not, it's written in there. And
which means it's written in history. Yeah.
It's written in there, and also some stuff about it written in the book of Enoch.
Yes, the book of Enoch, which should have been in the Bible, but wasn't. It's basically the same, thing. But then you also have like the people who used to live up in the caves that would look out over the terrain, and it was almost as if they were trying to stay off the ground. And then you also have some Native American traditions where they used to live under the ground, and they were taught that by the ant people. And it's a good way to be protected. And then there's also the theory that Bigfoot smells bad because he lives underground and he doesn't get any real airflow through his hair. So it creates this stagnant stank, basically. And then there's also the lizard men. Yeah. And then there's also the lizard men who are supposed to live within the inner earth. So there's so many different varieties of beings that are said to live within the earth. There's got to be something to it. There's something behind it. And right now, as far as with the types of cryptids we're dealing with in the current day and age, the whole Bigfoot idea of Bigfoot living under the ground, and that's why they're so hard to find and why they stink sometimes. That makes a lot of sense, really, if you think about it.
Well, just go to thunderbirds and pterodactyls. I mean, people report these things, and there's no way that they're living above ground or they'd be seen more. They must be coming from below ground to come out, or they would be seen more frequent.
That's a really good. I knew that people were experiencing that, but I had never connected to the idea that they could be living underground. I had played around with some ideas that maybe they're what do you like the residual hauntings, but of dinosaurs. But then I'm like, well, that's kind of few and far between. Maybe that's probably not it. And then, I played around with the whole theory that, maybe they're dimensional slips. But then the underground theory, that would be a really good flesh and blood theory. If they are living and they're real creatures, they could very well be living underground. Because there's, like you said, there's no way they're living above ground. People would see them too often.
One of my theories when people claim a Bigfoot cloaks and all that is, are they seeing a flesh and blood Bigfoot, or are they seeing residual effect of a Bigfoot ghost? So, that's why you can't, I mean, it's just a possibility, because I know residual's real. I've experienced it before with ghosts. It happens. So is it a spirit of a Bigfoot, the energy left behind, and and that's how it just disappears and vanishes out of nowhere?
That's actually a really good point. I do like that, because a lot of people are thinking that they're going up, UFOs up. They could be. Who knows? Maybe they are going down, though. Maybe that's why they're disappearing. They're just like, down their hole, and then they're gone, and then we can't see them anymore. The tracks just disappear.
Yeah, a lot of mysteries out there. We just don't know until we get better. What do you think it's going to take for that evidence? And how do we get these?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
How do you think we are supposed to get better evidence and get better interaction than what we're getting?
I think that too many people go out there with too many expectations. I don't think when you're going out there to investigate something that you really don't know a whole lot about, you should not set expectations on what it takes to find them, how to find them, where to find them. I mean, yeah, great. Use as best of knowledge as you can, but once you're out there, don't set expectations. Those expectations can blind you to experiences that you might otherwise have. If you just stop your expectations once you've got settled down and you're in your spot where you're going to investigate for the night, I think that your chances of having a real good experience go higher if you don't have your expectations set. Because when you have your expectations set, you get into this certain mentality, like, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this. That might not be what you got to do. You might be pushing them away rather than drawing them in. I think a lot of people go out there too gung-ho and, ready to just, catch one and carry it. There's different reasons, I think, that we hinder ourselves from experiencing them or getting any good evidence. I think we should focus on really just being out in the wilderness, and I think we will stumble across some really good evidence at some point.
What about the thought that maybe not everybody's meant, certain people draw this type of energy? Because I've been surrounded by it my whole life. Could it just be it takes a certain person to really be able to not just experience it, but for it to want to interact with that person?
As far as that theory goes, I support that theory 100,010%. And the reason why is because
that is a big
yes, like as much as you can, because there's so much solid real life proof to that. And you look at the way dogs, some dogs are very drawn to certain people. Dogs that are super aggressive with anybody else might meet a stranger and be super friendly with them. The same goes for some livestock. And if we're looking at a lot of these things, like their flesh and blood, if you're one of those people that draws in other flesh and blood animals that just seem to really like you naturally, what's to say that they can't too? And then you got people, as far as the ghost side goes, people that are willing to be more open or just naturally more open. And then those spirits, those entities can figure that out because they're like a beacon to the spirits. And then they are drawn to that. So I think there's different reasonings depending on what type of paranormal stuff you're talking about. But I think that is completely true. I think some people, you'll never escape it. If you've had it and it keeps coming back, you're not going to get away from it. But I think for some people, they can seek it their whole lives and maybe never find it because they're just not the right person for finding it because They're like a friendly dog who's always friendly with everybody all of a sudden runs from this person. That doesn't mean they're a bad person per se. It just means they're not somebody who's good with dogs. So
Energy.
it's probably the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that could play a big role in the encounters and stuff.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Gwendolyn, you were talking about a expedition coming up. Are you allowed to talk about that, or is it more of a down low kind of thing?
Right now nothing's set in stone. I do know it's going to be a very new type of investigation, and it's why it's so appealing to me. But I'm not really 100% sure, about the date, so I can't discuss the date. And it's not like we want anybody stepping where we're going to be investigating on that date, anyways.
Yeah.
But the logistics of it, I'm not the head of the investigations, so I feel like it's more like Nick Valente's job and Jody's job to kind of discuss and go over that. But I definitely wanted to give, Nick and Jody and Vincent all props, because they've worked really hard to get this investigation together. And they're just really good group of investigators. And they're approaching it in a whole new way. It's not going to be your normal, you go out there and you do hoops and calls and knocks on the tree and stuff like that. It's going to be very, very stealthy, very quiet. It's very military style. It's going to be very cool.
Yeah, we're we use our brain and we think, and we try to incorporate new things. And one of the things I came up with, and it's something people do, I just call it the old sheep. You go out with a small group and one of you falls way behind, like out of sight behind. Walk really slow, it's like a prey thing. The lion doesn't attack the herd. The lion waits for the weak one, so it doesn't have to exert the energy. And it can be very intimidating. I've done it a few times. The guy that falls back way out of sight, out of even flashlight sight, and when you start hearing these noises and you're all in the woods and you're all alone, but you got to do what you got to do.
As strange it is to say, I am more than willing to be the person that kind of lingers in the background and lets everybody else take off ahead of them. I would not mind that at all.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but when you get in those really intense situations, it's like investigating is not just about the results and the evidence. You do get an adrenaline rush when you investigate a lot of times. And I think that's what keeps a lot of people coming back. It's not just the evidence. It's not just the helping that you do to the people.
I can speak for,
adrenaline too.
I can speak for the three of us. It's a thrill, and we seek it. It is really an adrenaline rush out there looking for this. And you might look for 2 nights and not get nothing, but that one night for 5 minutes, something might go off, and that's what keeps you going back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Josh?
Yes.
And shout out to Duffy really fast too. Duffy, I forgot to mention Duffy when I was talking about the NADP. Sorry, Duffy.
Well, you got that in there. It's an adrenaline rush for you too, right? Isn't it, Josh? I mean,
absolutely. Doing the 168 with Carrie, that was pretty intense, and that was a lot of fun. There are a lot of times where it was a lot of adrenaline going, and being out those woods, doing the research and going places where people don't normally go. That's some, pretty heavy stuff. And that's the LCC. That's what we do. That's what we enjoy doing.
Yeah. We try to push the envelope and go into these spots that people have not gone into or don't go into or would not think to be like, well, I'm gonna go into that. We try to do it safely, of course, but we push through some thick stuff, and That's how we're able to find some of these areas that get some good interaction, though.
Mhm.
But you have to be careful out there. It's very dangerous in any environment in North America. And you always study
Absolutely.
these normal animals and wildlife to better understand
And
your big research too. It all comes into play. Everything.
and of course, don't go by yourself if you don't know what you're doing. Of course.
Yeah, and Bigfoot isn't the biggest danger out there. Yourself, you are your biggest danger in the field. It only takes one mistake by you, and you can die. Welcome back, Gwendolyn.
Thanks. Sorry.
You'd think this was a Thursday night, huh, Josh?
Oh yeah, pretty much.
He doesn't do shows on Thursday anymore because every time it's technical
Yeah,
difficulties.
way too many Wi-Fi problems, StreamYard problems. It's just one thing after the other. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, I guess I blame you. I don't normally have this many problems.
Well, it's not every day a semi truck runs over your phone poles either.
Took out like 3, almost 4 of them. It pretty much took down a 4th, but I think that they're going to try to pull it back up. But yeah, it took down at least 3.
Well, we know what took down your internet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not me. It's not me for once causing the electrical issues.
So, what about any sea serpents or lake monsters and stuff? Have you have any reports or any experiences with that?
I'm sorry, it's very muffled. I couldn't hear you.
Lake monsters or river monsters? Have you experienced or any reports of that? What's your opinion on those things in North America and beyond?
I'll be honest with you. I'm staying out of the water. I'm not doing no water investigations. I used to do Loch Ness Monster was one of the very first cryptids I began to research, just out of sheer interest alone. But of course I never went there. It was a lot of couch research. But I was swimming in fresh water and I had something, nothing should ever been this big in the lake. It swam between my legs and it pushed my legs apart. And it was so big, like you could just feel it swim between your legs, and you know how your legs kind of expand to let it out. I was like, I'm getting out of this water. And it was at that moment I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to investigate a lake creature. Something about the water. I'm scared to death.
Yeah, they can be more intimidating. Jaws did it for me for a lot of years, but
yeah.
Oh, geez, Gwendolyn, you're going to be able to talk to Ken Gerhard. And you know who Shatan Noor is? She is a historian. Noor. Yeah. She's
her name sounds very familiar.
Yeah, she's studied about every water cryptid in Michigan and all over. She's going to be there too. So if you think you're scared of the water now, wait till after the conference.
Oh man, I cannot wait to hear her speak. I'm so excited. I more power to her. I support her 1000%. Kudos. I could never do it, but I'll be thrilled to hear about it.
Now, your opinion, because I believe that in the general consensus, people think that most Bigfoot and cryptid researchers are males. But yeah, more than 50% are. But a lot of people don't realize how many females are really involved in the research of Bigfoot and cryptids. It's a lot.
Yeah, there's quite a few. There is way more men.
Man, always wanted to get good too.
I know.
It's StreamYard, it's
no, it's she's going off of her phone because there's no internet because her polls got ran
was
over.
messing with me earlier.
Okay, You were left off. There's way more men. Is where
Than women.
it's not
And it
that
did take me a
not that big of a
yeah, sorry. It's not a big margin. It's not a huge margin, but there's still more men than women. However, you're seeing it more now than you ever used to. It did take me a long time to step into the field more publicly because it was intimidating. You know, I knew I was going to be working probably with a lot of men and stuff, and it was I was afraid I wouldn't measure up. And then finally, you just get to a point where you're just like, I don't care. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it because I want to, and I enjoy it. And I'm glad I did. But yes, there's quite a few women out there, and they're really good. They're really good, and like the She Squatchers, I'm sure you've heard of them.
Oh yeah,
they're very
yeah.
intelligent, yeah, and they're good at what they do, and they do it in a more natural type of investigative style.
actually,
so that's
Josh
kinda
had
neat.
the She Squatchers on Tuesday night, so make sure to tune in for that.
Nice. Yes, they're a great couple. They're a great group of people. Mostly mostly Jen's gone. Jen and Jenny. But yeah, so they're really good people. And the approach that they take is unique. And I think that having more women up in the field has added a fresh approach. And I think that we're starting to see that it has different impacts. You know, it has different impacts on the type of experience you have, like we were talking about earlier. So I think more and more groups are willing to pull in more and more women. It's still a little in the fresh stages, I think, of it, because you do still get a lot of skepticism from some of the more masculine dudes that, you know, think it's more of a man's field. But I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. I think if you get into the field, you gotta just not care. You just got to do it because you love it and not be worried about what the men are going to think of you.
Well, yeah, and you got to admit it. Some guys are actually creeps. I mean, you can't deny it. Me as a man, I'll admit it. Some guys are just creeps. And, yeah, I can see how women could feel uncomfortable. One woman going out with 4 guys can make a woman feel uncomfortable unless there's a trust there.
Yes.
And
yes. Yeah, definitely just don't go out with any group. Don't go out with a fresh group that you don't know. I think that as a woman, if you're smart, you've already learned this kind of stuff. But just because you're all Bigfoot researchers doesn't.
Darn it, just when it's about to get good again.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's about being prepared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Holy
all right. Well,
we're at an hour and a half already.
Yeah, I was going to say we're about an hour and a half in. I think this is a good stopping point. Is there anything we wanted to add about the conference, or do you want to tell everybody again about this sponsor speaker, Gwendolynn?
Yeah, for sure. So when you sponsor a speaker, you get 1 free ticket. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to go, but if you have a friend that might want to go, but you still want to sponsor somebody, that's a great way to give away, you know, your ticket to somebody who wants to go, who might not get to go. And then you also get to sponsor, but get your 1 ticket, and then you get your notoriety of sponsoring your speaker. And you guys are going to make your speakers aware of who sponsored them, and you're going to make it able to be visible at the conference, if I'm correct. And it's a great way for podcasts. A lot of people don't think about it. Podcasts need to get the name out there too. The groups, individually, if you just want to say that you help support your favorite speaker, you do it individually under your own name. And there's just a lot of different reasons why you could sponsor a speaker. And the biggest reason is because these guys are out there doing it all the time. And a lot of times you're spending your own money to go get to do this stuff. Sure, you write books, you make money off that, but you got to have the background to back up your books. So it's a great way to help speakers who go out there and do all this so that they can give the information back to us through conferences like this. So I think it's a really good thing to do. And I'm hoping that a lot of people jump on the opportunity because, believe it or not, speaker sponsors opportunity don't come around every day. They're actually gobbled up relatively quickly. So that's why I try to tell everybody on my own page, I was like, get it quickly because I don't know how many spots they have. But yeah, you definitely want to get out there and do it. It's a good thing.
Well, Gwendolyn, I let your speaker know that you sponsored him. Has he messaged you? Did he message you?
Yeah, he messaged me. He says he did. He's like, I hear you're sponsoring me, and I said, yeah.
You can say
I
his
said,
name if you
I'm a
want.
present.
I'm not going to say
Adam Davis.
Uh-huh.
Adam Davis. Yeah. So it was like my little present for congratulating him for, finally getting his book out. And it's done really well as far as I've been able to notice on Amazon. So
I just bought
yeah.
2 copies.
Yeah, it's a good one. I haven't finished it quite yet, but I plan on it real soon.
It's a fictional novel, but written by life encounters of real things that happen, but it's written in fiction. I
love it. I love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Gwendolyn, for coming on. And
thank you guys.
Thank you, my co-host, Blake and Chad.
Of course.
I appreciate you guys filling in today.
Yeah, sorry we were here to wreck your show.
Oh no, you're fine. No, my co-host will be on the next few shows, so I'm sorry you didn't get to meet him, Gwendolyn. But I'm sure we'll have you back on one of these days, and then you can. I would
with
love
a much
to
better connection.
Yeah.
And once we do the outro, stay here so we can talk for just a minute after the show, if you don't mind, please, Gwendolyn.
Yeah, for sure.
My name is Josh, and welcome to Hide and Seek Archives, a podcast where we talk about things supernatural, cryptid, or unexplained.